Hello everyone. On this channel, I feel that information about what is happening in China is often not correctly conveyed to countries other than China, so I will be disseminating the information I have gathered in English. I'm getting information from multiple media, so I'd be happy if you could comment on the content of the video. Also, my native language is not English, so I use an AI speaker to create the voice to convey the information correctly. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel and support us. This time, I will talk about the problems that occur when buying an apartment in China today. The current Chinese government is Xi Jinping. As for the Chinese government, the central government has shown its policy to the Communist Party organizations across the country for the major problems occurring in the country. It was hoped that the policy would improve the situation in various parts of China, but the reality is worsening. So what is the big problem facing Chinese society at this time? As I often introduce on this channel, when buying a condominium in China, it is common to purchase an unfinished condominium. Because it is cheaper to pay before completion than to buy after completion. However, when general people buy condominiums, they cannot buy the entire amount in cash, so they have to take out a mortgage from a bank to purchase a condominium. The story so far is common all over the world. The method in which the buyer receives a discount and pays the price before the real estate is completely completed is practiced both in the United States and in Japan. China's problem is different. In the case of China, the situation is that the condominiums purchased are left unfinished and never handed over. In the meantime, you will continue to pay interest on your mortgage. As a result, many people cannot afford to buy an apartment. This happens because property developers run out of money halfway through and are unable to continue construction. If you can raise funds to continue the construction when the money runs out, you can resume the construction, but since the apartment is already sold out, even if you complete it, you will not receive a large amount of money. As a result, lenders are hesitant. Once the condominium is completed, there is no possibility of recovering the loaned money because the purchaser will not receive a huge amount of money. The developer has already sold the condominium, so even if it is completed, it will not bring in much money. Therefore, as the developer, even if you work hard to complete the condominium, you will not be able to make a huge profit. There are locations all over China. In Chinese, this is called. In Japanese, kuru means a building with a rotten tail. Tail means from head to tail, meaning the head is the first and the tail is the last. I think you can understand this image even in Japanese, but there are many buildings in China where construction stops when the construction starts and comes to the end. This problem has become a very big social problem in China. In order to solve this problem, one is to prevent the flow of money from stopping. Banks often take a passive stance because there is a risk that they will not be able to collect even if they lend money. Therefore, it is the power of the government that can solve this problem. The Xi Jinping administration has instructed local governments to complete the construction of the Doro Tower issue to the end. It is possible that the Xi Jinping administration has positioned this issue as an important government task and has instructed the building to be completed, thus solving this problem. It was hoped that this would not only help people who had paid but were unable to receive their apartments, but would also revitalize the real estate industry. There is an index that investigates the economic sentiment of people in the real estate industry called the Business Confidence Index. People in the real estate industry say the economy has been very good so far this year. This is because there was an expectation that the Xi Jinping administration would show a policy to overcome the Sibiru issue. However, here is an article about the current situation. The article dated June 13, 2023 introduces the story of a real estate owner who purchased an unfinished apartment for 987 people. It is said that these people bought a condominium with a mortgage, but stopped paying the loan to the bank because the construction stopped. These people are currently living in rented apartments and are paying both rent and mortgage payments, and since the apartments are not completed, the interest on the loans and the burden of rent are making life very difficult. You might think that many people would stop paying their mortgages if they weren't able to hand over their apartments. You may think that China won't pay your mortgage so honestly, but there are actually strong incentives to keep paying. It's a credit score. If you take out a mortgage but stop paying it midway through, your credit score will deteriorate, and as a result, you may be at a disadvantage in various ways, such as your child's schooling or high-speed train ticket purchases for long-distance travel. I keep paying back the money to the bank, even though I'm worried that they won't hand over the apartment, especially considering the impact it will have on my children. However, some people have stopped making loan payments in a desperate situation. There are many people who have forced themselves to stop paying their banks, even though they thought it was dangerous to have a bad credit score. I will explain the current situation of such people. They are said to be relentlessly sued by banks. Banks are several months behind on interest payments and go to court, and courts issue judgments ordering full payment immediately. This article provides examples of people with 987,000 loan balances being sued by banks. Not only will you pay off the loan balance, but you will also incur a penalty, which will be paid as penal interest at a very high rate. In addition, you will have to pay attorney's fees. Since it is not possible for ordinary people to pay it back in one lump sum, you may think that you will be effectively bankrupt as you will be incurring this large debt and the penal interest will increase. But it's not that simple. There is a mechanism called escrow, which is a system that is used worldwide, including China. Especially in transactions involving large sums of money, the bank enters between the receiving side and the paying side. The bank receives the purchase price of the condominium, and the bank pays the real estate developer according to the progress of the construction. In other words, if the construction progresses smoothly, you will be paid, but if the construction stops halfway, you will not be paid. As a result, there is a mechanism in which a third party manages the money so that the paying side will not suffer damage even if the construction is stopped in the middle. When using escrow to purchase real estate in China, the bank keeps the money and usually pays the price in 3 installments. However, it seems that different patterns exist depending on the contract. The important thing is not to give the full amount to the other party at the beginning, but to avoid paying the full amount when the apartment is not completed. The bank should be paying according to the progress of the construction. However, as I mentioned earlier, real estate developers are always short of funds, and they do not proceed with development with their own funds. There are cases where the bank actually paid, even though the contract should not have paid the bank. Therefore, the purchaser of the condominium faces the problem of not being able to collect the money. However, there is a reality that the buyer's opinion does not pass in court. In other words, Chinese court rulings are subject to political intent. There are many people who believe that the bank or the property developer is responsible for the situation where the property developer stops the construction in the middle and the buyer pays the price but gets nothing. If this responsibility is recognized, there is a possibility that the movement to pursue the responsibility of the bank will spread. The Euro problem, that is, the problem of not being handed over even though the payment was made, is a very big problem in China, and many people are in trouble. If the real estate developer stops the construction in the middle, this is a breach of contract, so if the idea of canceling and recovering the money deposited in the bank is recognized, many people will take the same action. As a result, Chinese property developers will find it difficult to operate. To avoid that, the fact that the bank broke its promise and paid the developer the full amount is no longer questionable. This is the move of the Chinese courts. The judicial ruling is the same as the policy of the CCP. Decisions are made based on political decisions. Courts do not consider the bank's fault even if it sees only non-payment of mortgage interest as a significant deficiency. This is a kind of threat. The opinions of those who do not pay their mortgage interest are not taken into account at all in the courts and are consequently stripped. In addition, credit scores will also be severely affected, he said. However, although most people in Chinese society are aware of this situation, what does it mean that there are many people who do not pay the loan interest? It means they are cornered. I will introduce a case introduced in an article. In 2019, I bought a condominium of about 90 square meters. According to the contract, the interior was scheduled to be handed over by November 30, 2021. But construction is currently suspended, and there are 3,200 families who have not been handed over yet. My monthly income used to be more than 10,000 yuan, but now it's halved, and I have to pay more than 5,000 yuan a month for my mortgage. In other words, most of the income will disappear on the mortgage interest rate. Cases like this make it very difficult to solve the problem. For those who take out mortgages, the interest burden can be very large relative to their income, and it is also a problem that they purchased apartments that were too expensive to begin with. There is also the premise that we did not expect the Chinese economy to deteriorate this much. It cannot be assumed that household income will be cut in half in a short period of time. Even in Japan, I don't think there are many people who live their lives with caution against such a situation. Therefore, it is considered that the Chinese do not have a special way of thinking. There are many people in the same situation all over China, so in the future, even if information such as declining credit scores and lawsuits from banks spreads, people will not pay loan interest if they are in a difficult situation to live. May continue to increase. A rumor circulated last year was that if you didn't finish your unfinished apartment, you wouldn't pay off the loan anymore. In other words, instead of not paying when you can afford it, the story spread that if you no longer have the intention to hand over the apartment, you won't pay anymore. On the other hand, the Communist Party government has set the completion of condominiums as a national policy. However, I have to say that it is not the case that condominiums are actually completed according to this policy. In addition, there is the problem of poor quality buildings being made to look finished. Even if the condominium is handed over in such a way, it may become a dangerous building and have to be demolished. I think it's no exaggeration to say that China's real estate problem has already entered the apocalyptic situation. That's all for now. See you next time.